Okay, Beth Pascall, what a treat it is to have you in the house today. I feel like I'm catching you at a seminal moment in your life because not only did you just win the Western States 100, but you just got married.
Yeah, it's been a crazy few weeks.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah, yeah, I still can't quite believe that this has all happened. But yeah, I'll look back and think what an amazing time it was. Right now, it seems overwhelming, and it hasn't been without a lot of stress along the way. But yeah, things are going well.
Things are going well. Yeah. So I'm guessing you were planning on getting married well before Western States. So this was all planned out.
No.
No.
Um,
Okay.
well, okay. Well, yes, we planned it for last year, and then it was cancelled. Um, but with the rules in the UK, so we had planned it for this summer, but they only made the announcement that it could go ahead a couple of weeks before Western States. And with cases going up and everything in the UK, we were resigned to the fact that it wouldn't happen. So we hadn't done much re-planning.
Okay.
And then we're told it could go ahead, but we had to implement a load of new rules, which and modify the setup and things. And that also, it was very much a DIY wedding. Everything was done ourselves. It was at my parents' house.
Okay.
So yeah, it was super, super busy. The 2 weeks between Western States and the wedding.
Okay.
Yeah. So still, I apologize to anyone who sent me a message or an email in the last month or so. Not many people have had replies yet.
uh, well, and I'm catching you right after a bike ride. You're still wearing your bike gear, so I love it. You're just you got a lot going on, but thanks for doing this. I appreciate it, and can't wait to hear your story here. So, but first and foremost, congratulations on Western States. I mean, incredible effort, incredible performance. And you were at Western States a couple years ago, and you did really well that year too. But it wasn't a win. So were you looking at this year like you're going to be super competitive? You're going to do everything you can do to come in and win this thing, or where was your head at before this?
Yeah, like my preparation had been different, and I was going into it wanting to win, or at least make the podium.
Yeah.
I think a lot has changed for me in the last couple of years since the 2019 Western States, in that I knew I was in good shape. Like I'd had some good results. I felt like I'd kind of taken a big step in my career and started to win some races. So I knew I had a better chance. Even at the beginning of this year, I thought, I this could be the year. And yeah, took some time off work for the first time, went out to the States, spent some time training, generally took it like much more seriously than I'd done before, and put a lot into it. And obviously, lots of other people had, put a lot into it as well. But for me, I was lucky and it paid off.
Yeah. So when you say you put a lot more into it this year, what does that look like? I know you took a little time off work, came to the US, you were in Arizona for a while and doing some training there. Was your training more specific to Western States, or how did the training change?
I wouldn't say the training changed that much. It was only that it was more, I was training in conditions that were more more suitable and more specific. It's
Okay.
difficult. It's not like I was doing different sessions or more volume or less volume or different. Anything was different. It was just the fact that I wasn't doing my sessions in the UK. I was doing them at altitude in the heat, which made a big difference, I think.
Yeah.
But even saying that, like, I don't think I got any fitter in my time over here. I was already fitter, say in April, when I came over. So all I had to do was, kind of fine tune things, and adapt to the heat and the altitude. And I wasn't trying to do anything heroic in those few weeks in Arizona.
Okay. Do you work with a coach?
I do, yeah. My coach is Martin Cox.
Okay. So what does that look like? What's your relationship like with your coach, and what sort of work does he have you doing on a weekly basis?
So yeah, my coach, we have a very close relationship.
Okay.
In that, I mean, when I say close, I mean we have a lot of contact, like on a daily or more than once daily basis. And actually, my training, it didn't go that well initially when I was in Arizona. And I was feeling quite rough for quite a long time. I raced Canyons 100K in April. Took a long time to recover from that. And I didn't really have a training program. Well, I had a training program, but it would change on a daily basis. So it got to the point where I was deciding what training, well, Martin was deciding what training I was doing for the next day after the session the previous day.
Okay.
So it was very much, we were taking one day at a time, which I needed to do because I needed to just be really careful and listen to my body. And I think, yeah, that really paid off. I do more intensity than I was doing in that training block prior to Western States. All I was really doing were the long specific runs, and a few kind of moderate paced runs on the flat or rolling hills. I wasn't doing any of the normal sessions that I would do sort of in the winter back here. Like I wasn't doing any intervals, any hill reps, nothing really high intensity. Just because I think it's hard being a sea level dweller going to altitude and training. I think it takes a long time for you to adapt sufficiently to the altitude to then get the training benefits from doing really hard sessions.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, yeah, nothing heroic really. Yeah. No.
You mentioned that it took a long time to recover after Black Canyons. Is that what changed your training or sort of kept it at bay? Or why do you think it took so long to recover from that? And what did that look like?
I think it was because I went to altitude straight after racing. And I've never done that before. I've always gone to altitude, a few weeks before a race to adapt, but never gone straight after a race. So I think it was like a double whammy. I couldn't recover well because my body was trying to get used to the altitude. And I'm certainly someone who struggles with altitude a lot, which was one of the reasons for going there, ironically, because I needed to adapt. So I think that's what it was, to be honest. Okay. But in the end, I did recover and it worked out okay. But yeah, if I could do it again, I'd probably wait a week or so after a big race before going up to altitude. But that's just a personal thing for me. Other people might be absolutely fine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you never know how things are going to flush out until you try it sometimes. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
How did you get into this crazy world? So if I understand right, you were a runner a long time ago, and then you did some other sports, and then you got back into running. How did it all start for you? And how'd you get into this crazy world of running 100-mile races?
I read a few books when I was getting into the sport, sort of 8 years ago or something like that.
Which ones?
There's normal ones that people read, the mainstream books like Dean Karnassus, Born to Run.
Yes.
Books like that. And before that, I didn't know that this sport existed. And I was like, that's crazy. That sounds completely mad. I want to try that. I don't think it's possible for me to run 100 miles, but I'd love to try. And it was, absolutely nothing to do with thinking I could be good at it, but it just sounded sufficiently crazy to get me interested.
Sure. Yeah. And so is that right though? You ran way back. I don't know if it was when you were a kid and then you took some time off and then did some other sports and then came back to it.
I mean, I ran athletics, cross country at school, but not, I was okay. I was at a sort of county or interregional level, but I wasn't in a system that we ever took running or training particularly seriously.
Right.
I think in the UK, like, unless you're a member of a club, like, we just don't have at my school anyway, we didn't have like the infrastructure. Like, no one, we would train a couple of times a week, but we didn't really do much else. So I wasn't, in that. I think I would have liked to take it more seriously back then, but I just wasn't in the environment that it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then had a few years. Well, it wasn't like I intentionally stopped running, because it was never really a big part of my life, I guess. I just did some other things, and came back to it. But I can't really compare, running track at school to how I got back into it.
Sure.
Running mountain ultra races.
Right.
It's a completely different world.
Yeah. What other sports did you get into?
I was a lightweight rower at university, actually.
Okay.
So I did that for a few years, and then just dabbled with some other things, some cycle touring, a bit of triathlon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have much success there, or were you aiming for success in triathlon, or was it just something you were doing for fun on the weekends?
Yeah, absolutely. I was not aiming for success. I did like an Ironman distance triathlon once.
Nice. Okay.
And I rode a wooden bike.
A wooden bike. Tell.
My bike was grown for me, actually. It was made of bamboo. I'd been working in Zambia, and when I was out there, this company was starting up making bikes from bamboo, and they made this frame for me. And it was one of the first frames that they'd made. Doing this triathlon, I just wanted to ride my bamboo bike. So certainly if you wanted to win, you wouldn't ride a bamboo bike, but I thought it was cool.
Wow.
I certainly wasn't being competitive in any way.
Okay. That's kind of a cool little novelty. You did so it was an Ironman distance on this bamboo bike?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Impressive. And was it then, while you were going to college, I'm guessing, that you started reading these books that kind of piqued your interest and fascinated you?
Yeah, around that time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Dean Karnaz's book opened my eyes to this whole world too. Like, just kind of blew my mind. Like, this guy's going out on training runs and ordering pizzas while he's out on the run. And I thought, this is just completely insane. Like, I wonder if I could be insane like that. So
it sounds like we had a similar start.
Same thing. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, where does that quote unquote insanity come from with you? And when I say insanity, I mean it in the best way, but what was it that fascinated you about this world, and what made you want to try it?
I guess I've always been interested in endurance challenges. I mean, so I guess my friends and family probably weren't surprised when I was like, I'm going to run a 100-mile race. I remember when I was like 12 or 13, my brother and my dad were going to cycle to my grandparents' house, which was 100 miles away. They didn't really cycle. I didn't really cycle. And I was like, I want to come too. And they're like, yeah, you can't come. Yeah. It's too far. You don't have a bike. And I managed to convince them to let me go 20 miles. And if I was okay after 20 miles, I would carry on. Okay. And if I was super slow and tired, then I'd turn around and go home. And I did the whole thing. Nice. I was completely broken at the end. I think they did regret letting me come. But yeah, there's something, I don't know what it is, but I've always kind of been interested in pushing myself and that type of thing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. What was your first ultra marathon?
It was a small race on Exmoor, which is an area in the southwest of England where I was living. It's a race that doesn't exist anymore. I can't remember what it was called, the Exmoor Ultra or something. It was about 40 miles, I think. Okay. And how did that go for you? Good, I suppose. I don't know if I won it or not, but certainly there were very few women in the field if I did win it. Like, sure. Winning didn't mean that much. But yeah, I was very, very sore afterwards. But yeah, I was hooked. I certainly wasn't thinking, you know, I never want to do this again.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it that hooked you in? And I'm asking this coming from triathlon as well, because I did an Ironman distance triathlon as well. And it was cool. It was a good personal experience, but it's like everybody, I don't know how it is in England, but everybody is so focused on themselves, and you don't make a lot of friends during an Ironman. But then you go to a trail run or an ultra marathon and you got 20 new best friends. Is it kind of the same way there? Is that what hooked you in?
I think that certainly helped. Yeah, like the community and also the simplicity of it. I think I like the way that it was so easy, having been a rower where you're often in a crew, and like you want to train at a certain time of the day, and that means that you have to have everyone else there at the right time, and you have to have all the kit, and there's always a lot of faffing involved. I love the way that to train for ultra running was just the easiest thing in the world, and so time efficient. And yeah, time efficiency was a big thing for me back then, because I was always super busy with work and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, so both of those things, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is so simple. You can just go out the door with a pair of shoes and just get it done, and you don't have to rely on a bunch of other people or your bike being completely tuned up and ready to go. It's so simple. So what does a typical day look like for you? I believe you're a doctor, and I think you work in a hospital, but one of our Patreon questions for you was, how do you balance running with work life and regular life? It sounds like you got a lot going on, busy. How do you do it all?
Well, I'll say normal life, and normal life has not been the last 3 months, 4 months.
Right.
So, because that's been very different. But yeah, when I'm working, there is still no typical day because I work different hours every day. So I do work sort of normal days, but also a lot of night shifts, a lot of long days, so 13-hour days, evenings, that type of thing. And I think I kind of thrive off that, and I kind of miss it. So I have to be super, super organized with planning exactly when I'm going to get all my sessions in for the week. But I'm certainly, when I'm training a lot, when I'm working a lot, I, take into account sort of the stress of that and count that as training as well. So being on my feet all day, is tiring. And I certainly don't do any hard sessions around sort of long days and when I'm working night shifts, just because I don't recover well, so there's no point in doing it. So my training is like not particularly spectacular when I'm working a lot, and I think I get away with it by having some periods. So some periods will be really, really intense with work and training. And I know that, in the build up to a big race, there'll be a couple of months that aren't sustainable year round. But I know that I can get away with that if I take time back at other points in the year to kind of let myself recover physically and psychologically. So I guess it's what I'm saying is it's a complex way that I try and periodize training and work throughout the year, and sometimes it's really, really hard and not sustainable, but I've just about been able to get away with it over the past few years, most of the time.
So is that something that you sit down with your coach and try and map out, like week by week, day by day, like, okay, this is going to be a busy week. I'm going to have to squeak a couple runs in at odd times, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So my coach will know exactly when I'm working, and make it work. Yeah. But at the same time, we stay flexible as well. Like if I'm working night shifts, for example, he won't be that specific with what training I'm doing. I'll prioritize sleep, and I'll sleep for as long as I can. And if I can sleep all the way through the day, which very rarely happens, then I won't train at all. And if I have an hour to spare, I'll train for an hour, or 2 hours to spare, I'll train for 2 hours.
Okay.
So keeping it flexible as well.
Yeah. Okay. That feels good to hear you say that, because I think most people's training is like that. I know mine's like that. I wish that I could get up at 4 o'clock every morning and do 2 hours and then go to work and everything is happy, but it just doesn't work that way.
No, and certainly not for a long period of time. But
yeah.
you can get away with it if you want to take some risks at certain times of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. And so do you typically have like weekends off where you're able to get in some longer runs or some back-to-backs, or what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, I work some weekends, but have some weekends off as well. Yeah. So I would do back-to-back long runs when I can. Yeah.
Before Western States this year, were you logging some big miles? Or big for you?
I only had a couple, 2 or 3 weeks when I would say they were big miles.
Okay.
I plan to had to have a few more weeks like that, but just with listening to my body, and when I started to feel good, I've been feeling good for like a week, and I was like, okay, this is the time to go. Like we can up it. We could afford to up it a bit for a few weeks. But yeah, it was only 2 or 3 weeks that I would say I was running a lot before tapering again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you attribute your success this year to that time off that you took from work and the time you were in Arizona, training at altitude, training in the heat?
Part of it, yes. Part of it. But also, I was fitter. Even in January, I was fitter than I ever have been before at that time of the year.
Just like accidentally fitter, or were you training specifically, or what happened?
I guess kind of accidentally fitter. So last September, I rolled my ankle and had I broke my ankle essentially. I had a posterior malleolus fracture. So spent about 8 weeks on the bike or doing very, very minimal running. And very quickly when I started running again, I was fitter than I ever had been before. And I don't know whether that was, the time on the bike that it helped my fitness, or whether it was the time off running that meant I just recovered. I don't know. And certainly I wasn't expecting to get to come back fitter after that injury. But yeah, for some reason, I was. So I was sure in January, February, I had some really good training, probably the best training I've ever had actually then. And I was actually nervous that I was going to peak too early. I felt in February like I was ready to race. I guess, like a lot of people, it had been a very long time since I'd had a race. So the challenge was more about kind of sustaining that and not burning out too early in the season. But then I would say that time in Arizona and the time off work did really help as well. So I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, that's mentally really hard to sustain that. If you feel like you're peaking or like too early, like how did you do that? How did you mentally map that out and say, okay, I got to stay at this level for the next few months?
Well, it is probably more of a challenge for Martin, my coach, to be honest, to make sure I need to maintain it physically. I just do what he says. I have the easy bit.
Okay.
No, but I think it gave me a lot of confidence early in the season, for sure. It probably helped. It wasn't mentally a challenge, because when all your sessions are going well, like there's nothing, you feel great, right? I feel great mentally anyway. So I think the challenge was just not overdoing it too early in the season. And Martin figured that one out.
I'm curious, do you do any cross training, stretching, lifting weights, body weight exercises, or anything else crazy that's in your training regimen that we'd like to hear about?
I do cross train a bit, but only when if I never had any niggles, I'm not sure I would cross train.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as I said, I spent time on the bike when I was injured last year, and I do a bit of cycling. Yeah, I cycle reasonably regularly, but not, on a maybe like once a week, twice a week, if I'm completely healthy. And I do some strength and conditioning. Again, it's kind of periodized throughout the year. So sometimes the year I will lift some dumbbells and things. The last few months, it's just been body weight exercises and some core. Yeah. At the moment, I'm starting to do some more upper body stuff, just to get used to help with strength, upper body strength, for using poles for races later in the season.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Going back just a little bit, when you were running ultras and having some success, was there a moment that sort of switched in your brain where you thought, I wonder if I could do this professionally? I wonder if I could win one of the big races. Was there a specific moment where something changed for you, or was it just a slow build up to get to this point?
Yeah, it's been a slow build up, I guess. Okay. I mean, when I first won a race, I thought, oh, wow, maybe I could, win an even bigger race. And at some point it probably occurred to me that I could win one of the biggest races, but it certainly wasn't like I did my first race and I'm going to be a professional runner.
Yeah.
No, it's been, I guess there have been like a few turning points. I think when I won the British Trail Running Championships, which was in 2016, I think, which was probably the most competitive race I'd done before. And I thought, oh, wow, okay, like I want to take this more seriously. I'm going to try and rearrange my life a bit so I can get a coach, get in some structured training for the first time, and things like that. But yeah, it's been kind of progressive, I would say.
For sure. And when you were in Arizona, what sort of acclimation were you doing to the altitude? What sort of heat training were you doing? Or was it simply just going out and running in those conditions?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
In fact, I was staying in Flagstaff, which is about, I don't know what it is in feet, but 2,100 meters. And I was actually, when I was acclimatizing, I was driving down lower to train to Sedona, which is about 700 meters lower.
Okay.
Just for better quality training, so I'd feel better during my sessions. And then when I started to feel better, I would train in Flagstaff at that altitude. Okay. And heat-wise, I wasn't doing anything other than running in the heat. Yeah. And not every session, like I wouldn't purposely go out at midday every day. I think the thing with heat is that you obviously need to do some running in the heat, but it does reduce the quality of the session. And you do take longer to recover. Like if you do every single run in 100 degrees, then you're not going to get many like solid training runs in. And it's you do feel wiped out afterwards. So some runs, but I wasn't overdoing it.
Sure. But it worked in your favor. This was a hot year at Western States. Talk to me about the heat. The year that I ran it, it was really hot too. Like I think at the time it was like the second hottest that race had ever seen down in the canyons. It was like 125 degrees or something. How did you manage that heat?
I did kind of feel like I was learning as I went along. Like you can train in the heat, but you can never really prepare yourself for what it's going to be like running for that long with that level of support on the course. Yeah. So it's not something that I had like dialed in. Like you don't have aid stations every 5 miles with ice like on your training runs. Yeah. So all that stuff I was kind of yes, I had some experience in 2019, but it was much cooler then. So I did feel like I was kind of making it up as I went along and listening to my body. But yeah, I just did all the normal things with ice and cooling off at all the creeks. And yeah, I didn't have any crazy novel strategies.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
you dipped in the creeks when you crossed creeks. You did the ice at the aid stations. I saw a video of you, like your crew was just pouring ice down your arm sleeves and in your hat and pretty much everywhere. So pretty
Yeah,
much just the standard stuff.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How many people did you have out there for crew and or pacers?
I had two paces.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure of how many people were in my crew. So my husband Matt was there crewing, and then sort of last minute, one of my pacers and his girlfriend Brady and Joe offered to crew early on in the race, but actually when we were there was quite a few people I noticed.
Okay.
Like helping me ice up, so I couldn't exactly some people that I had met before, some people I hadn't.
Okay.
I would say like six maybe.
Okay. Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. Did your husband get a chance to pace you, or is that not his style?
No, he was chief crew. He
Crew.
needed to crew me.
Yep.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
He could have paced me, but then I'd have to have someone else to crew. And he's crewed me a lot. Yeah. He knows me the best. Yeah. And yeah, that was probably the most important or the most appropriate role for him.
Got it.
Plus he hates running in the heat. So
okay. Smart man. And then your pacers, how did you pick your pacers? Was it very specific, or was it just these people are available at this date? Okay, that's who we're going with.
So in 2019, so the race has a system where they can match up runners with pacers. So yes. Especially international runners who can't bring all their mates over.
Yeah, right.
And I met Brady. Brady Burgess, who's a guy from Berkeley, through that system. So he paced me in 2019, and a mate of his. And then, yeah, he was great. We got on really well, and he did an awesome job. So I really wanted him to pace me again. Cool. And then he roped in a mate of his, Naja, who agreed to pace me from Forest Hill to the river before Brady took over.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about the pacing aspect of things. What did your pacers do that was just clutch for you, that really, really worked? Did they have anything that they did or that they said, or was it just being with someone for those miles?
I think it is. I'm certainly just being with somebody, having an extra pair of eyes. Make sure you don't take any wrong turns, looking behind, make sure there's no one there. Yeah. And certainly, yeah, encouragement. I mean, I can't remember exactly what they were saying. Sure. But I remember being a bit skeptical about the whole pacer thing in 2019, because I'd never had, it's not normal in Europe to have pacers. And I was like, do I really need a pacer? Like, they can't carry anything. Like, are they, like, what's the point? But I was after 2019, it helped so much just having someone there that, yeah, I would always want a pacer for sure. But I couldn't say exactly how they helped, but it was invaluable having them there.
Yeah, it's just a huge psychological boost just to have someone running right next to you. And I don't know what it is, but it helps a lot. So, so cool. I believe you were quoted at one time saying women are better at pacing themselves in races like these. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think the results speak to themselves in that the women clearly did very well at Western States this year.
Yeah, totally. There's 3 women in the top 10, right?
3 women in the top 10, and I think it was 15 of the top 30 were women.
Wow, incredible.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know exactly why women, I think I was expecting, if you looked at the men's field, so many guys just blew up in the latter stages of the race, or even the early stages of the race, and DNF, but that didn't really happen in the women's field. You know, everyone was kind of steady. No, not many people had massive bunks and DNF'd with the heat. And I don't know exactly what it is, whether men are just physiologically less good at dealing with the heat, or the women were just better, like just smarter, dare I say it. I don't know exactly.
No, I would,
but it seemed to be the case that
I would totally agree with you. It's like women are sometimes just better at suffering through that stuff. And gosh, hats off to you guys. Do you have a particular low point that you remember where you thought, because from what I understand, you were leading most of the race for the women. Did you have a particular low point where you thought, oh man, I don't know if I can hang on to this pace, or was it just smooth sailing all day?
I had several low points. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. I want to hear about them.
Where I felt like I really slowed down and had to take lots of time at aid stations to cool off.
Okay.
And every time that happened, I was like, am I going to bounce back this time? I don't know. Yeah. Or surely someone is going to come past me. But I just think that they were probably the times in the race where everyone else was having a tough time as well. So, for example, coming out of the second canyon, so Michigan Bluff, I felt pretty rough. Had to sit down, had to take a couple of minutes. Cal Street around Cal 2. Well, the whole of Cal Street was pretty rough, to be honest. But especially around Cal 2, I had to sit down. I think they were the 2 times I had to sit down and be like, you know, if I'm going to bounce back from this, I need to, you know, take a minute to cool off. And luckily, I bounced back, but I didn't know that I would at the time.
For sure, yeah.
And I think it was all heat related, because they were the points where you've kind of, it's hot, or for example, coming out the canyon, for example, you've gone it's a long climb and you haven't been iced up for a while, and then you cool off a bit, drop your core temperature, and feel better again.
Yeah. So you explain it like I had to take a minute. Was it literally like a minute, or was it 2 minutes, or how much time exactly were, you know, it's probably a little fuzzy for you, but do you remember how long it was at each aid station?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Not that, maybe, I can't imagine it was more than 2 minutes. Okay. I think when you sit down, it feels like a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I certainly, I mean, even the other aid stations where I didn't sit down, it does take a minute to get ice everywhere. You need a lot of pairs of hands, like changing your bottles, someone getting your gels in, someone pouring ice on your head, some tying something around your neck, ice everywhere. It takes a while, but it's definitely time well spent.
Yeah, totally necessary. And in a race like that, it's just so hot. So you were leading the race most of the time. Did you feel like you were being hunted? Were you running scared? Were you looking over your shoulder, or were you just in your own head? I'm running my own pace. It is what it is.
I was running scared for sure.
Okay, sweet. Okay. What does that feel like?
I think it's the same if you're winning as if you're, you know, in fourth, right? There's always someone who's behind you trying to catch you. And yeah, I guess it was a little bit more intimidating being in the lead, perhaps. But I see it overall as a positive thing. You need to be a bit scared, right?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it propels you forward when you're scared like that.
Yeah, a positive thing overall, and especially in the last 20 miles. Yeah, I think, being scared really pushed me on.
Was your crew able to communicate with you where second place was, or were you looking over your shoulder the whole time, or what was that like?
So yes, they did tell me, but only sort of towards the end of the race.
Okay.
I don't think I had any information before Forest Hill, I would say.
Wow.
And I understand now that the gap was not massive, but very, I think it was Ragnar who was behind me, and she was just 7 minutes behind, 7 minutes behind, 7 minutes behind. So I was maintaining the lead, but certainly I couldn't relax in any way.
No.
And I think my crew were pretty stressed about it too.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so I got some information in the latter stages, and yeah, I was trying to work out in my head. I think I heard that Ruth was 18 minutes behind at Green Gate or something, and I was like, well, if all I have to do is not run a minute per mile slower,
Yeah.
Ruth, and I'll be okay. Yeah, so that was helpful, and it also meant that the last few miles I could actually enjoy, knowing that I didn't have to be super stressed. In 2019, even running down the road at the end, I was constantly looking behind me for head torches, because it had been really close. So it did mean I could actually enjoy those last couple of miles.
Okay. Okay. What were those last couple miles like? I'm guessing you were running with your crew there at the very end before you hit the track. Was it a moment of celebration, or was it just surreal, or where was your head at?
God, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it.
Okay, cool.
It was, yeah. It was the most, it was, yeah, I can't even explain it. It was amazing. It was to have that many people out there on the roads, like cheering me on. And yeah, it was really special. And it was so special to be able to share that with my crew and paces. Yeah, it was just magical. It was, yeah, I think, that last mile on the road was as special, if not more special than running around the track at the end. There were so many people out, which doesn't happen if you come fourth, funnily enough.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was a completely different experience. It was, yeah, super cool.
Wow. Have you had time to take it in, to soak it up? Because I know that you were busy pretty much right after the race.
Honestly, I maybe it's sunk in a little bit now, but it has been strange in that as soon as we got home, the focus just completely shifted into something even more all-consuming.
Right.
So yeah, and now even when I think about it, like I don't know, yeah, I get goosebumps thinking about it now, but yeah, most of the time I'm looking forward now, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. What does your husband think about all this?
What, running in general or Western
States? Well, I'm referring mainly to Western states. I mean, well, first of all, how long have you guys known each other? Did he know you at the beginning of your ultra running? And then now that you guys just got married, like, what are his thoughts on you winning the biggest race in the world?
Well, yeah, I think he's pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got together when I was just getting into running.
Okay.
So I was running, but I wasn't like some sort of elite sponsored runner or anything.
Right.
And yeah, it was really cool to kind of discover the sport with him actually. And he runs, he's not in any way competitive, but he really enjoys like a good day in the hills with friends, and he's done some races and things. We have done some races together. So it was cool at the beginning, kind of sharing that with him. And yeah, like I think he enjoys crewing more than he lets on. He is one of those things that he gets super stressed as well. I mean, it's like, even for the runner, like, do you enjoy every moment of the race? Like, absolutely not. Yeah. And he, as a crew, does not enjoy it because he's always so worried about me,
Yeah.
and stressed, and I don't know, but afterwards he is obviously super happy.
Yeah.
So it's a similar experience for him. Like, he finds it tough, but the reward is worth it
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, crewing is sort of a thankless job. There's a lot of waiting around, hours and hours of waiting. And then your runner comes through and you get to see them for, in your case, like 1 minute, you stick ice down everything, and then they're off again. And then you got to go to the next place and wait around some more. It's a tough gig. And some would argue even tougher than running 100 miles. But
Yeah, I would totally say so.
yeah, there's just a lot of logistics and organizing that go into it. But what's next for you, Beth? You won the biggest race in the world. Do you have your sights set on Western States next year, or are you looking at other races this year, or where is your head at?
I am hopefully racing UTMB in 6 weeks.
Nice. Wait, what was it? 6 weeks?
Something like that. Have I got that right?
Okay.
Right. But
that sounds about right.
Yeah, so I'm aware that it's a tight turnaround.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to give it a go.
So how do you negotiate that? If it's only 6 or 8 weeks away from your A race of the year, how do you train for that? Do you take some time off where you're just doing low volume and then slowly ramping back up, or what is that like for you?
So I've had 3 super easy weeks.
Okay.
I mean, I've been forced to take it really easy because I've been so busy with other things.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, we kind of figured that as long as I can get like a week of really good training, perhaps I'll do like 3 or 4 back-to-back long runs. That's all I need to do.
Okay.
Just to prepare my legs for the bigger mountains.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be probably another 10 days of taking it easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then a big week, and then starting to taper.
Okay.
So yeah.
Are you thinking about Western States next year, or is that too far away?
I think it will be very hard for me not to come back.
Yeah.
But I haven't made something really big would have to come up, which would come back. So yeah.
Yeah.
I probably will.
Cool. Well, we hope you do. It's just, it's a cool story, just watching your progression throughout the years and coming in and, like I said, winning the biggest race in the world. I mean, it's got to feel pretty rewarding, and it's something that we can only imagine what it feels like. So hats off to you on just an incredible performance. And are you back to work now?
I'm not going back to work until after UTMB.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So yeah, I've got another 6 weeks or so.
Okay, so you got no excuses, no pressure for UTMB, but you got the time to train. You've got the time to focus. So good luck. We'll be keeping an eye on you.
I don't feel any pressure anyway. So
good.
Anything else that happens this season is a bonus.
Yeah. What else do you get up to in day-to-day life? I mean, I know you're busy with work and training, but do you have any other hobbies or anything else you do in your spare time?
No.
That pretty much covers it.
Really, I would say. I have a lot of time for other things.
Yeah.
What do I? No one's asked me that question for a long time. No other big hobbies or passions at the moment.
Okay.
I would say.
What do you do to relax? When you finally have some downtime, the training's in for the day, work is over, do you just sit down and watch some Netflix and binge on ice cream like I do? Or like what else do you get up to?
When I'm working and training, I don't really do
There's no time.
No, like occasionally we'll like watch some Netflix, but not like, most days there is no time for that.
Yeah.
Training takes you right up until, or work until you need to go to bed.
Okay.
So there's not, it's pretty full on.
It's pretty full on. What's your, how much sleep do you normally get? Do you normally get a full night's sleep, or are you usually cutting that short?
Well, I reckon I've averaged about 5 hours a night for the last,
Whoa.
since Western States.
Really? That's not
Yeah,
much.
it's not much. I felt awful.
Be honest, Beth. Tell us how you really feel.
It's purely because I was so stressed about the wedding, and organizing everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's up and down, up and down. Like I'll have certainly less sleep when I'm working, and then try and catch up on a day off or something.
Okay.
But yeah, sleep is not one of my life skills, and I don't.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you do well on little sleep. I'm curious what your diet's like. Do you work with a nutritionist or a dietitian or anybody like that? Or do you have a specific diet that you follow, or not so much?
Not so much. I mean, I like 95% of my diet is plant-based. But that's mainly for environmental reasons. I eat eggs because we have chickens at home.
Oh, cool.
And I'm not like super strict about any of it. Like I'll have some dairy milk in my coffee if I'm at work and there's nothing else. Yeah, I'm not particularly rigid with that. But yeah, I mean, I have worked with nutritionists in the past, and I've kind of know roughly, perhaps from my medical background, like how to feel properly around training. But yeah, I don't monitor anything specific, I would say, when it comes to that. But just follow kind of basic principles, I guess, which I've been through a lot of years, so I don't really have to think about it.
Yeah, for sure. And then lastly, what's your food intake like during Western States? Are you living on gels, or are you able to eat real food out there? Do you ever have stomach problems?
Yeah, pretty much living off gels.
Okay.
I use Spring Energy gels.
Yep.
Which are the gels that have a bit more complex carbohydrate in, so they're mainly kind of rice and fruit based. So it's not like I couldn't survive off your standard maltodextrin gels for 100 miles.
Yeah.
But gels I can survive on. Okay. So I do take some energy drink, like electrolyte drink as well. I really enjoy Coke at aid stations. Yep. And that's about it. Yeah, I had some crisps or potato chips, as you can over there.
Yes.
The times during the race, just because I don't know. Occasionally, I just crave them when it's super hot. So I had a few of them, but that was it.
Okay. How many gels do you think you ate at Western States?
49.
49. You counted.
I'm pretty sure it was 49.
49.
I haven't counted the wrappers or anything, but that's what I calculated that I was going to eat, and I pretty much You
stuck with it. Okay. So was it like a gel how often was that?
That probably works out at like 3 or 4 an hour.
3 or 4 gels an hour. Okay.
Maybe it was 3. I have to do the math now, because I was factoring in the electrolyte drink as well, which had carb in it. Maybe it's more like 3 an hour. Yeah. Which works out at about 80 to 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour, which is what I usually take in long races.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of gels.
Wow, a lot of gels. And it sounds like this was planned out methodically. Is that pretty much what you eat in training as well?
No, I never eat that much. It feels gluttonous to eat that much.
Yeah. But do you train with gels, or do you train with real food?
A mixture, really. It depends. Yeah, I probably should train more with like proper race nutrition, but I just feels a bit greedy. And I guess I like race regularly enough to know that I don't need to practice my race nutrition over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like I did the same at Canyons, which was only 8 weeks before Western States, and went really well. So I didn't feel like I needed to, practice with that.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got it dialed. And any stomach aches, stomach cramps, throwing up, anything crazy like that?
Nothing major. I did feel a little bit nauseous at one point, I think, but nothing that affected my ability to keep up with those gels.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, I mean, to run 100 miles in that heat, you're asking a lot to have like zero stomach problems or nausea or anything like that. Yeah. So yeah, I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. Yeah, nothing major at all.
Wow. How does your coach feel after your latest win? And then after that, I'd like to know how your family feels about all this too.
Yeah, Martin was pretty happy.
I bet.
After the race, I guess.
For sure.
He's staring, like when I told him like how much I drank on my wedding day, he's like, that'll take a week to recover from. He thinks that he needs to get me back on the straight and narrow now.
Okay.
I think my family are pretty happy. They can relate to it. They do run a bit themselves. They've read some of these books as well, so they know about this. And I think they don't tell me so much, but yeah, I think they're pretty happy for me.
I bet. Are you like the crazy person at the family reunions that the cousins are like, yeah, that crazy girl runs 100-mile races, or is it just pretty normal?
I wouldn't say I'm like the most hardcore person in my family.
Okay. You've got people in your family more hardcore than you?
Well, for example, my parents who are, so last year, they were 65 and 70. My dad was 70. And to celebrate their birthdays and their wedding anniversary, they ran 48 miles in the mountains in the Lake District here.
No way.
It's kind of cool, especially as they don't really do that much of that type of thing.
Wow.
So that was cool.
That is.
And arguably more impressive than anything I've ever done, knowing their running background.
Wow. What inspired them to do that?
I think my husband bullied them into it.
Okay.
There's a book called Feet in the Clouds that is about the British fell running scene, essentially. And they both read that and they were inspired by Joss Naylor, who is a fell running legend over here. And he created the Joss Naylor Challenge, which is this 48-mile route in the Lake District that is for people over 50. And there are different like time cutoffs for completing it, depending on which age bracket you fall into. So that's what they did.
Wow, cool. So this is just all genetic. Your whole family's just the whole family's got a screw loose here. This is awesome. I like it.
It seems so, yeah.
So you've got UTMB coming up this year. Do you have anything else coming up? Any other races or any other personal projects? Anything else you got going on?
Everything else beyond UTMB is to be decided.
Okay.
Racing wise, running wise.
Yeah.
No other personal projects, I guess. I mean, I'm going back to work, so that'll take up most of my time for the rest of the year after UTMB. Yeah. No, I don't think there's anything else.
Okay.
I had enough enough personal projects for the year so far.
Yeah, totally. Well, Yeah, no, I hope you're able to like just take some time and just sit with this. I mean, such a huge accomplishment. Like I said, this is the race that everybody wants to win. So, and you did it. So hats off to you. Congratulations. Just a incredible, incredible effort. And this was the second fastest time for a woman, which is even more impressive. Um, Remind me who the first fastest time is. Who said
Ellie,
that?
Ellie Greenwood.
Ellie Greenwood. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, and she was there that day.
Was she? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm pretty sure she was. You didn't
I
get a
did.
chance to talk to her?
No, I didn't. I wish I had.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess I could be wrong. I figured you probably talked to her that day, so I
She's a
thought she
fellow,
was there.
she's a fellow Brit, so it's kind of cool that the two fastest times are by Brits.
Absolutely. Have you met her before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Okay.
She lives over in Canada, I believe.
Okay.
She hasn't lived in the UK for a while.
Got it. Got it. Cool. Well, Beth, so impressive. So cool. Just hats off to you, and just soak it up. Take some time to just enjoy this thing, and then, you know, get back to your training just like you're doing. So, and thanks for doing this. I so appreciate it. And we can't wait to see what's in your future. And we want to see you at UTMB, and we want to see you at Western States next year. So just hang in there and keep doing what you're doing.
Well, thanks so much. It was fun to chat.
Absolutely. Well, have yourself a good rest of the day. I really appreciate you.
And you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll see ya. Bye.